Okay. The Albany. Okay, whatever.
It doesn't matter. Just do it.
Okay, plan for extended aggression between colonies denied by Britain. Plan proposed by Benjamin Franklin that sought to unite the 13 colonies for trade. The Albany Plan was.
Go.
The Albany Plan was a. Sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. The Albany Plan was a plan proposed by Benjamin Franklin to unite all of the 13 colonies, and the purpose and the impact of, can I start over? I'm done.
Or you could just edit it out. You don't
Yeah.
have to do it perfectly. And also, if you fumble your words, it means it takes more than 20 seconds.
Okay, yeah. The Albany Plan was a plan proposed by Benjamin Franklin to unite all of the 13 colonies for the purpose of trade and land, and it also exaggerated the aggression between the colonies and Britain because Britain denied the plan. Okay. Sorry, I'm bad at this. Bartolomeo de las Casas was one of the first bishops in the Chiapas, which is like an area in more towards Mexico. And he proposed the new laws, which gave a lot more rights to Native Americans living in the area.
No offense, but that was really short.
Yeah. I'm sorry. No, I can do it again.
No, because there's another B, so you should just keep going.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I'm like this.
Okay.
So, okay. Bacon's Rebellion was a rebellion against Governor Berkeley of Virginia because Berkeley was. Oh my God, Jesus Christ.
Just continue. It doesn't
okay.
matter.
Bacon's Rebellion was a rebellion against. Bacon's Rebellion was a rebellion against Governor Berkeley.
You do realize, though, like, you can say you can get to the point where it says a rebellion against Governor Berkeley, and then take a minute and breathe and think about how bad you did, and then stop and then do the rest of it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I'm sorry, yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter if it's good.
Okay.
Like, do you understand, like, no one's gonna see this, and it doesn't physically matter?
Actually, she's going to put it on a Google Drive that everybody's going to have access to every single video.
Yeah, in our classroom?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah, you're right. Bacon's Rebellion was a rebellion against Governor Berkeley, led by Nathaniel Bacon, in which they were mad because the Doge...
It just doesn't matter if I'm laughing. It doesn't.
I'm sorry. Oh my God. Okay. Bacon's Rebellion was a rebellion against Virginia Governor Berkeley, led by Nathaniel Bacon, because Governor Berkeley was in support of the Doge Indians even after they were being rebellious against the settlers. And the importance of the Bacon's Rebellion was because it won people the right to vote and had a say in government.
Valid.
That was trash, but it's fine.
Okay, so the next term is the idea of city upon a hill, and that's basically a term that started with the Massachusetts Bay Colony, and it's basically just all the ideas of America and what they were escaping from Britain. So they really valued, their new world, their boundless resources, their freedom of religion and democracy, and it basically embodies an early version of the American dream. So...
We love an A-push queen.
So the corrupt bargain happened during the presidential election of 1824. So basically, Henry Clay pledged his support to Quincy Adams, and then he was elected Secretary of State. So it's like he only supported Quincy Adams because he would get that position of power. So that was kind of an example of corrupt politics. The Declaration of Independence was the first document that declared the United States independence. And it basically stated all the ideals and goals that the United States would be founded on. And it stated their complaints against Britain and showing how Britain had gone too far. And just basically stating their goals as a nation, asserting their independence from Great Britain. And that happened on July 4th, 1776.
Was it?
Yeah.
The Era of Good Feelings was a time period based off of President Monroe's 2 terms. It was a period of strong nationalism, economic growth, and territorial expansion. And since the Federalist Party kind of died out after the War of 1812, there was only one political party that everybody truly did support. And the North did disagree with slavery, and this is where we get things like Harriet Tubman and books such as, I forgot that man's
Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Uncle Tom's Cabin. I'll just cut that.
That one's yours. No, you can say that.
Huh?
That's fine.
Okay.
Looks like we both know our shit, you know?
Yeah. So Federalist was a term to describe supporters of the Constitution during the ratification. They were strongly against the Articles. Oh my God, I forgot those articles.
Articles of Confederation?
Okay, Articles of Confederation. And they thought that people who were higher in education and higher in the social status in general should be the ones who are making the decisions. Yeah. And is that one mine?
That one's mine.
All right.
Okay, so the first and second Great Awakenings were just religious revivals. Basically just newfound confidence in religion from the people. So the second Great Awakening was starting in 1801, and it was based on Methodism and baptism. So it was basically just talking about salvation through good deeds and tolerance for Protestants, and it had a lot more acceptance of different groups such as women and Native Americans. And from this came a lot of new religious sects such as Mormonism and Unitarianism. And it really defined a unique American religious identity. So it was the first time when Americans had their own religion rather than like Catholicism or Protestantism, which came from Europe.
Nice. Is the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo mine?
That's yours.
So the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo was a treaty that basically ended the Mexican War. Mexico decided to recognize Texas as part of the U.S., which was divided by the Rio Grande. And it kind of gave Texas a very interesting identity where it kind of was its own country for a while. But now it belongs to the United States, and now it is the Lone Star State.
Okay, so the Homestead Act pretty much allowed westward expansion to become a reality for a lot of Americans. So it allowed settlers to move out west pretty much anywhere they wanted, and they could get 160 acres of land and live off of it for 5 years, and they wouldn't have to pay very much. And so it was a really good deal for a lot of people who were trying to move west. And so this was basically the idea of manifest destiny, because the goal was expanding as far as possible and expanding America's reach, and that was what was important. And it really did just volunteer this land away from all of the tribes that used it. America decided that it was theirs and then decided to compensate their citizens for moving onto the land. So it displaced a lot of tribes, arguably very unfair. Yeah.
I have to itch my back.
You're valid.
I'm pretty sure that one's yours.
That's mine. Oh, I forgot to research how to say all of these.
Is this what I think I have? John Locke is yours too.
Yeah.
I know I have this one.
Yeah.
So is it okay if I look through that?
You can look through it, yes.
Okay. I don't know if I reached.
Onondaga or Daga or Daga.
Okay. One more.
I love that. I love how we taped right on our faces so that neither of us are insecure about it.
Yeah, isn't that good?
It's so good.
Because we probably don't actually look that bad.
Arguable, but sure.
Sorry, I'm looking up these pronunciations. Okay.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
I think it's very respectable.
So the Iroquois Confederacy was basically a political alliance of all of these different tribes. So it was the Mohawk, Onondaga, Oneida, Cayuga, and Seneca tribes. And they basically were a very powerful political force in the colonies. They traded with French, Americans, British, and they couldn't really do anything without... I got distracted. That's cute.
Hello,
Okay.
Mr. Defterios. You're a king.
It's okay. It would have happened anyway. Yeah, so they created a central government that was powerful, and they had an influence that couldn't be compromised.
I love that energy.
Okay. So John Locke was a 17th century English philosopher, and he basically talked about essential human rights, basically just saying that people have the natural rights to life, liberty, and property, and these were the foundational, like, American values that established principles for, like, the Declaration of Independence and, like, people's ideas of what America should be. So his philosophy pretty much defined American values, so he's very important.
Jamestown was the first permanent English settlement that was founded by the Virginia Company of London, and it was led by John Smith, a very interesting man who was involved with Pocahontas. The first actual colony being... I'm dumb. The first actual colony being Roanoke, which faded out much longer ago. Jamestown overall was a major failure if it wasn't for the Native Americans who helped them through trade and other means. The location was terrible, the winters were cold, and it really did start to thrive after the discovery of tobacco in the area, which became a very huge economic... What is the word I'm looking for? A huge
Advantage.
cash crop.
Okay. Discoverage.
Shut up.
Okay.
I don't want to edit bloopers, right? Bloopers aren't important to you. To some people, they're very important.
You should leave them in.
Should I leave?
Like, for example, when I got distracted, you should just leave that in.
Just leave it in?
When I said discoverage after you finished, you should leave that in.
Okay, I see what you mean. But, like, still not cut out everything.
Don't cut out things that are just time wasting.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's me getting distracted, that takes up time.
Okay,
so
yeah.
you want it.
Yeah. Okay.
Just
Okay, sorry. Okay. The Ku Klux Klan was a secret...
leave that in.
Sorry.
It's not funny. Okay.
It's not.
Okay.
Okay. I'm laughing because I said Ku
Klux.
Klan. It's fine. Okay.
It's fine.
Okay. The Ku Klux Klan was a secret organization that used terrorist tactics in an attempt to restore white supremacy in the South after the Civil War. They were threatened by the fact that blacks and / African Americans were being able... What?
Nothing. Keep going. We're able to vote.
We're able to vote and gained a lot of rights. And they also were very threatened by the idea of slavery being taken away from them, because to them that is a concept of life. It was their everyday function. That's how they got food on the table, and that's how they grew their cash crops in general. So for many, it was very interesting to be able to see that an African American could actually sit next to them or even talk to them normally without being on a plantation serving for them.
Interesting.
Interesting. We love white. Oh, is this one mine as well? Okay. The Louisiana.
Girl,
That man was running.
this man is kneeling to the ground. Okay, keep going.
Okay, I'm
He's just
sorry.
on his knees. I love that. Okay,
Okay, I'm so sorry.
we're
sir.
15 minutes in, bro. Okay.
I'm sorry. It's
No,
my fault. It's
okay.
really my fault.
It's okay.
Okay. The Louisiana Purchase was a. Okay, 1 sec. The Louisiana Purchase was a territory in the western United States that was purchased from France in 1803 for $15 million. It was the cause of manifest destiny, and it brought a lot of debate to the power of the president, in this case, who bought the land, who was Thomas Jefferson, who bought the land without the Congress's consent, from Napoleon, because Napoleon needed the money for war over in France.
Okay, so the idea of laissez-faire capitalism is basically the invisible hand saying that markets will adjust themselves based on supply and demand. So people's wages will adjust to the market, the prices of things will adjust to the market, and just everything to do with economic regulation is basically pointless because the market will adjust itself and make everything okay. And this was pretty much the dominating ideology in the Gilded Age in the 1950s, is the idea of free market capitalism, and it doesn't work. So keep that in mind.
I'm pretty sure that was yours.
Yeah. All right. So McCarthyism is basically Senator Joseph McCarthy led a search for communists in America during the 1950s, and they used a lot of kind of unconstitutional methods, just trying to stop communism. They would force people to confess and accuse others, and there was just a lot of anti-communist stigma at the time where they would really just do anything to catch communists.
The Missouri Compromise, or the Compromise of 1820, was over the issue of slavery in Missouri. It was decided Missouri entered as a slave state and Maine entered as a free state, and all states north of the 36th parallel were free states and all south were slave states. This was changed very much, and it was a strategic between it. I read my own handwriting wrong. It was a it made. It created a lot of context. It created a lot. What am I looking for? What's the word I'm looking for?
You don't even need to technically do this one because we have 3 M's.
You're right. I'll just finish it really quickly.
Okay, yeah.
Or I'll just put in what I said.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I'm sorry if I'm doing really bad.
It doesn't matter.
I feel like I'm doing way better.
Truly does not matter.
Do you really not care that I'm dumb?
I think I just have, like, no offense, I think I might have more experience public speaking than you
do.
So I think that's more where it comes from, and it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Like, even if it mattered, you're doing fine, but it literally physically does not matter.
Yeah.
So,
You should have done DYW. It would have been good for that. Okay, anyways. Manifest I can't even speak.
okay.
Manifest destiny is a notion held by 19th century Americans that the United States was destined to rule the continent from Atlantic to Pacific. It was encouraged by the government to move westward with things like the Homestead Act of 1826, and it prompted a lot of trails like the Oregon Trail, the trail that went to, what's the trail that went to Salt Lake City and like Mormons? The Mormon Trail. And other trails for people. Yeah. Is that one mine?
That's
as well?
yours.
Oh, yay. I get to do Nixon. Okay, so Nixon was the president between 1969 and 1974. I can't read my own handwriting. 1 second. He had some environmental policies, but overall, everybody mainly just remembers him for
Watergate.
Watergate. Everybody just mainly remembers him for Watergate. Watergate was we have Watergate later. I can't go into Watergate.
Vietnam being trash,
Yeah.
being unapproachable, and
You're
not.
spoiling Watergate.
He was not. Look at this face. He was not charismatic, and no one liked him because he was ugly.
Yeah. There was a broadcasting of a debate between John F. Kennedy and Nixon, and depending on who you were, if you watched it on the TV, they said that Kennedy won, but if you heard it on the radio, you would say that Nixon won.
I'm pretty sure that wasn't Nixon.
No, that was Nixon.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure that was Nixon.
Okay.
Do you want to Google it real quick?
Not real quick. We can Google it later.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was
Okay.
Nixon.
All right.
Okay. Old lights and new lights. Old lights were Orthodox clergymen who rejected the emotionalism of the Second Great Awakening in favor of more rational spirituality. The new lights were ministers who took part in the revivalist, emotive religious tradition pioneered by George Whitefield during the Second Great Awakening. There was literally no impact to them that I could find. There was nothing I could really elaborate.
Well, the religious revivals prompted an American religious identity. Mormonism,
You're right.
Unitarianism, all those cults. We like cults.
We like
Go.
cults. Oh, right. Obama served from 2009 to 2006. Obama served. Sorry.
It's okay.
Obama served from 2009 to 2017, and he was the first African American president. And he was. What else am I supposed to
He
say?
destroyed Libya and Syria, but a lot of people like him because he legalized gay marriage and he was black.
Stop
and-
taking my note at my little things.
Sorry.
No, you can go for it.
So, yeah, to Americans, it was really significant that he changed a lot of, like, identity politics domestically, but in terms of foreign policy, he did a lot of airstrikes, and, yeah.
Mhm. And he also during his campaign, he also made a lot of people feel like that there was going to be change in America, that times were really going to change, but foreign policy-wise and other than allowing...
Oh, Medicare.
And other than Medicare... Thanks.
Sorry, I'm
Thanks. And other than Obamacare, which was later re-invoked, so nobody fully cares about it
If you
anymore.
maybe.
Is it locked?
It better be.
I think God loves us.
All right. That shook the table. Okay.
I'm sorry, that's my fault. Wait, was it the high five? Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I'll just cut it up.
Yeah.
Come on.
Why though? Do you need the printer? Do you need the fridge? Why do you need the Okay. Can you leave that in?
Yeah. I love that energy. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna read through this real quick. 70s or an Indian uprising.
I
What?
love public school.
An uprising after the French and Indian War led by Ottawa chief named Pontiac. They opposed British expansion in the western Ohio Valley and began destroying British forts in the area. The attacks ended when Pontiac was killed.
Did you see this?
No, I didn't. I'm not
Bad
glad
energy.
I
Okay.
ate that energy. Okay, I'm sorry. Showed the ability of diverse tribes to come together. Okay, yeah. Okay, so Pontiac's rebellion was a rebellion that occurred after the French and Indian War, or 7 Years' War, whatever you want to call it. And it happened in 1763, which is technically in between the...
It's okay.
It's
We're
okay.
gonna pretend.
Okay. And it was a Native American uprising led by an Ottawa chief named Pontiac. They opposed the British because they weren't really keeping any of their promises after the French and Indian War. And they opposed the British also because of the expansion into the Ohio Valley, which once again was not theirs, and began destroying British forts in the area. The attacks ended when Pontiac was killed. This was very important because it showed Native Americans finally being able to come together despite all of their conflicts in the past. And it really did identify a new Native American identity and showed that diverse tribes were able to come together to fight the British.
Okay. I'm probably not gonna have to do this one, / shouldn't do this one. Unless do you think you're gonna cut out a lot of that, or do you think you're
I'm gonna cut out a good amount.
Okay. I think Mr. Defterios locked it for us so that no one else would come in.
That king!
He's really out here.
Hello.
It was open when we got in. Mr. Defterios, I think, locked us in here because people kept coming in.
That's okay. He should lock you in here.
Can you lock us in here, please?
No, it doesn't work that way.
Oh, then how did we get in?
It only locks. It'll like once you open it, it's a spring lock. So then I didn't actually open the door. I just opened it. Does that make sense?
Oh,
No.
so it wasn't like, it was just like,
It's like the front door of the high school. I just turned my key and open it, but it doesn't.
Which one of us opened the door?
What?
Which one of us? Oh, I'm asking.
I think
Sure,
you.
opened the door. It's locked now.
How did we open the door?
I don't know, dude.
Okay, well, we got in somehow. I don't know. Thank you.
Love that king.
Okay.
Okay.
So a plantation was basically a large-scale farming operation, and they specialized in cash crops such as tobacco, rice, indigo, cotton, things like that. And it was basically just really large plots of land that no one could do on their own, and they were so far away from everything else. So it was basically slave owners had many slaves, and they all worked on this plantation until they died.
Energy.
Okay, so the Quakers were a really important religious group. They denounced slavery, which is why they were persecuted in America, and they were very pro-equality, and they helped with a lot of anti-slavery efforts, so they were very important. So they were founded by William Penn, and he helped them move to Pennsylvania, where they would experience religious tolerance.
Nice. Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. The Red Scare was a fear that communists were working to destroy the American way of life. So basically, in around the 1950s, the USSR was rising to significance. And so a lot of people feared that the American ideals of like democracy and capitalism would be threatened by the USSR as it was growing. And so this encouraged a lot of imperialist behavior. So that's kind of why we went to Vietnam, to fight against communism. That's why we still do a lot of things, is to fight communism.
The commies. Those damn commies.
All right. The sexual revolution was basically a movement in the 1960s where people kind of rethought a lot of different sexual norms that were going on. So it changed like gender roles and the ideas of marriage and heteronormativity. And a lot more people were like sexually promiscuous because there was less shame associated with it. So it was just kind of a time when women's roles were questioned and they were able to kind of branch out and do some more things that they might have wanted to do.
The Salem witch trials happened in 1692. About 19 people were executed as alleged witches, but the main significance was the main significance of it was the fact that most of the people who had been alleged witches were mainly people who were of mixed race, of different religions, who were
Marginalized.
Widows. Who were sorry.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Can I start over on this one?
Yeah.
Because I have a lot to say on this one, but I'm just like dumb. The Salem witch trials were some trials that occurred in 1692 in, which one was it? Sorry. Was it it was the same place that was City Upon a Hill. Which town was it?
It was not the same place as City Upon the Hill. It was Salem.
Oh, it was just Salem. What am I thinking of? There's something.
I'm sorry. Just no.
This is why I'm getting a 1 on the AP test. I feel like you think I'm smart, but I'm just proving you wrong.
This isn't you being dumb. This is just you thinking too hard.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Courier says that too. I'm sorry. What is the place that I'm thinking of? They're like a certain. It's like there was the Pilgrims, and then there was the Protestants. I'm dumb. It's fine. They were Protestant.
Okay.
Okay. The Salem witch trials were some trials that occurred in 1692 in Salem, and about 19 people were executed because they were alleged witches. The main impact of this was that it really marginalized the poor people and those who were of different
Keep going.
religions, and just were mainly outside of the social norm. And the impact of it on the judicial system was that it gave us the right of innocence until proven otherwise.
Did it?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So the temperance movement was about alcohol, and basically women.
Okay, I got this. No, I got it. Don't be dramatic. Don't be dramatic.
Okay.
Can I do this? Wait, ready?
No, you're gonna die. Okay.
I think that was pretty good,
Okay.
if I do say so myself.
Is the door gonna be locked now?
That energy. What is this? Is this yours or mine?
This is mine.
Okay.
Flexing the AirPods. Okay.
My mom's AirPods.
So the temperance movement was basically women gathering around the idea of not drinking anymore. And as women, they kind of experienced a lot of abuse as their husbands would maybe come home drunk, and they just didn't understand why this had to happen. And so they saw alcohol as kind of an evil thing to avoid. So it was basically a women's movement and a really powerful political force. It was kind of just women leading a political movement. And it also kind of led to racial tensions between Irish and Italian immigrants as the temperance movement kind of built up. Irish and Italian people were people who maybe drank heavily, and so it led to a lot of stigma against those groups. You might not want to leave that part in because it might take too much time. Okay.
How long is this supposed to be?
I have no fucking clue.
I'll look it up.
This is probably 90% bad footage. So, like, yeah. Okay.
I love that energy. Can I see? I'm doing
Yes.
Tecumseh, right?
Okay, yep. All right. Transcendentalism was basically a literary movement that was based on new ideas like living with nature and just living fully and thinking about yourself. And it influenced communities and religious movements and literary movements as they strive to value nature more.
Naturalism.
Yeah, I guess.
Thoreau.
Yeah.
So Tecumseh was a Shawnee chief who, along with his brothers, oh no, I should check how to say some of these.
Okay. We already have too much on tea, so if you don't want to do this, you don't have
I don't
to.
really.
All right, just don't do it.
No offense to Tecumseh.
Yeah,
I'm
just
sure
don't
he's
do
a
it.
lovely man.
All right.
That's yours.
All right.
Sorry.
Unions were a really powerful force starting when capitalism kind of took off in America and as industrialized commerce kind of started to work. So I'm going to start over.
Go for it.
So as the U.S. industrialized, a lot more unions grew as workers needed to stand up for their rights. And unions in the United States established minimum wage and better working conditions and better hours. And women and unskilled laborers really made this possible. So, like, the American Federation of Labor was one of the first ones, and there were many more to come. And unions included all different sects of labor. And some of them reconciled with capitalism and were a little bit less revolutionary, but other ones were better, and those came later.
Nice. That is yours.
Yes. So the Vietnam War happened between 1954 and 1975, and it was basically a fight between North Vietnam, which was communist, and South Vietnam, which was anti-communist. And so the U.S. basically supported South Vietnam in their fight. And So it was.
Sorry.
It's okay.
You got this. I believe in you.
And so it was one of the most controversial wars in American history because a lot of Americans felt like the draft was unfair and all of the things that America was doing against communism might have been unfair, and a lot of people didn't understand it. So that led to a lot of distrust among Americans of their country.
Pretty sure. Are the rest of these mine?
No.
Okay. Oh yeah, Zachary Taylor's yours. Have fun with that one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna read the Democratic National Committee. Okay, I know a good amount about this one.
Okay.
Watergate was the scandal in which, Watergate was a scandal in which people who were hired under Nixon were told to break into the Democratic National Committee in 1972, and they tried to cover up White House involvement. Oh my God, can I start over?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Watergate was a scandal in which Watergate was a scandal under President Nixon's term, Watergate was a scandal in which various people who were hired by Nixon broke into the Democratic National Committee in 1972, and the subsequent cover-up of the White House involvement leading to eventual resignment of President Nixon under the threat of impeachment. He hired these people to break into the Democratic National Committee mainly to be able to get some source documents in order to help him with the election, even though he was prevalently pretty. Oh my God. Okay. Even though he was probably going to win anyways.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. This is cringe.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
Just go.
I know about this stuff. I just
It doesn't
can't
matter.
read about
So
it.
just go.
Okay.
No, do this one.
Okay.
You're done
Okay.
with that. It's fine.
I'll just cut out a lot of that.
Yeah.
The Wilmot Proviso was an 1846 proposal that outlawed slavery in any territory gained from war with Mexico. It was designed to eliminate slavery and required slavery within. Okay, it was designed to eliminate slavery from the land gained after the Mexican War, and it overrided the Missouri Compromise.
That's also yours.
Oh, I'm dumb. Malcolm X, oh my God, Jesus Christ. Malcolm X was Martin Luther King's kind of number one rival, original friend. He renamed himself to X to signify the loss of his African heritage. He converted to the Nation of Islam in jail in the 50s and became Black Muslims' most dynamic street orator and recruiter. His beliefs were the basis of a lot of the Black Power movement, built on how do you say that word? Separationist.
Separation.
Okay, power movement built on separationist and nationalist impulses to achieve true independence. I'm gonna cut out a lot of that. We have a good amount of M's, anyways.
Okay.
Oh, or that's an X.
X. That's awkward. Okay. Yellowstone National Park was the first national park in America, and it was one of the first conservationist efforts. And it was based on the idea that people should enjoy nature and it should be preserved. So it was established in 1872, but the CCC, or the Civilian Conservation Corps, did a lot of work on it during the New Deal because they built infrastructure and such. So it's basically the first national park, and it's significant because it shows that Americans were ready to care about the environment.
Yeah, your hair white.
Mine, sorry.
No, it's fine.
Zachary Taylor was an early U.S. president, and he was a Southern slaveholder, but he was also against the expansion of slavery, and he was also someone who fought in the Mexican-American War, and he was considered a war hero, and that's kind of why he won the election. was based on that, but he was against Manifest Destiny. And he was a little bit of an outsider. He was kind of apolitical, and he was not the best.
Nice.
Leave that in.
That was pretty nice.